Good Tag, Rabbi David.
Good Tag.
Thank you. Thank you, start. Whole family.
Okay, good Tag, everyone. Welcome. Wonderful to start the week with everybody, as we are dedicated by A.B. Spry, L'Refua Shalema for Taiba Reisa, Bas Hinda, and for great Zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren. We're sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Nishmas Yaakov, Zev ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov, Yosef Tzivya Miriam Bas God, Yosef ben Tzion ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great Shidduch for Chaya Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We're sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lila Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKoyen, and L'Refua Shalema for Liba Bas Anya. We're sponsored for the physical, emotional, and spiritual protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Bela Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by Eddie Chazan for Yeshua for Klal Yisrael and the safety of the IDF and their success. And we're sponsored by Menachem Yemansky with a tefillah that all those that are looking for their zivig should find it quickly and easily. We are holding by Amar Ravina, which is the very top line of Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. Amar Ravina, and really great to have everybody start the week with us. This is really the way to start the week. Amar Ravina, Hilkach. Since we said that they gave a tumah of zav to a Goyish boy who was Roi Labia at 9 years old and 1 day, a girl, a pagan girl, when she's 3 years old and 1 day, which is the time that a girl is Raya Labia, Mitame Nami Beziva. So the Gemara says, well, isn't that Pshita? Isn't it obvious that it's, just like by a boy it's 9 years, so we know by a girl it's 3 years, so it follows logically. Says the Gemara, no, because Maud is saying, I might think, Hay Yoda La Argule. A boy of 9 years old and 1 day is a danger of Mishkav Zachar, because he can already is of the age where he could cause a person to be attracted to him. But a girl of 3 years old and 1 day is not going to attract somebody and draw them to her, and therefore I might say that there wouldn't be a tumah for her at such a young age, Kamash Malan, that there is. Says the Gemara, Mistamach va'azal Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, akas beid Rab Simloi. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was leaning and walking on the shoulder of Rav Simloi Shamei, of Rav Simloi, his shamish, his attendant, his bacher, or his not bacher, but his attendant. Amaloi, so he said to him, Simloi, Loya Yisi Emish Bebeis Medrash, Loya Yisa Emish Bebeis Medrash. You weren't there yesterday in the Beis Medrash, Kishitarnu Es Hashemen, when we waved the ban on the oil of Goyim. And this is the quote that we had that Rav Simloi said that Bezdin Shel Rebbe was Mater Es Hashemen. Amaloi, so he said, B'yomenu, in our day, Tater afapas. We should permit bread also, because remember the reason why they were mater shemen is because it was a gezeira she'ein roi bat tzibur yochel lamed bay. So he said, well, in our day the same thing is true with bread. So Rebbe said, I can't do that because then I would get a reputation of a bezdin that's a lenient bezdin. Amalai imkain karalan bezdin sharia. They would call me a bezdin that's very makel, that permits too many things. Ditnan heyed Rab Yosi ben Yezer ish Sreida. Yosi ben Yezer, a man from Sreida, testified al ayil kamtza, that the grasshopper known as the ayil variety, dachan, it's kosher. V'al mashke beis mitbechaya, and the beverages in the slaughtering area where they had the rings opposite the northern wall of the Azara, that beverages in the beis mitbechaya is dachan, is tar. We're going to see it's a shaila whether it's tar mamish or whether it's not metame. V'al the yikrav lemesa, and that one who comes and touches a corpse is misoiv, is tamei. Now, first of all, the Gemara is going to ask, that's not a kula, that's a chumrah. Number two, that's a beferish deraisa, that somebody that touches a corpse is tamei. And you see that, we'll see that this was also a lenient ruling. V'kari le'yosef sharia, and because he said three lenient rulings, they called him Yosef, the one who permits things. And therefore, Rebbe says, I'm not going to be matir pas, because then I would be known as a lenient bezdin. Amalei, so he said, well, Hasam Sharat Tlas. There, Rabbi Yossi Ishreida permitted three things. Omar Sharachada, you only permitted the oil, the master only permitted oil. B'ishar Machada Achrite, and if you permit another thing, the bread, Akate Tartanu Davin, that would only be two things, so you don't have to worry. Amalei Anoshrai Achrite, I also permitted something else. Mahi, did nan, for we learned, and here comes Ilya Shutman for our 30th Zoomer of the evening. The Tanan, Zegitech. This is your get. Im loibasi mikanat shneim aser chaydish. The husband tells his wife, here's your get if I don't come within a year. Umeis b'sech shneim aser chaydish. And he dies within the year. So the Rabbanan say, ain't a get. It's not a get, because he said that the get should be chal in a year. And he died before the year, and ain't get la'achamisa. So it's not a get, and therefore, if the wife was childless and there's a brother, she needs either yibam or chalitza. However, v'tani Allah, and we learned braysa on this, v'rabbiseinu hitiru alinase. Our rabbis allowed her to marry. V'amrina, and we say, man rabbiseinu, who are our rabbis? Am Rab Yehuda Amar Shmuel, bezdin deshara mishcha. That's the bezdin who permitted the oil of an akim. So that would be Rabbi Yehuda Anasi's bezdin. So this would be the third thing that he was matir. Now, why does he hold that way? Because he holds savrlak Rabbi Yossi. He holds like Rabbi Yossi. The Amar Zmanoi shel shtar moichiach alav. The zman of the shtar, the date of the get, which was dated on the day that it was given, is moichiach, that he meant it should be chal from now if he doesn't come back in a year. So therefore, it's chal from now before he died, and therefore she's allowed to remarry without hibam and chalitza. Says the Gemara, "V'amar Rabbi Abba Breid Rabbi Chia Bar Abba Rabbi Yehuda Anasi Hora." Rabbi Yehuda Anasi made this psak, v'loi hoidu loi kol shata, but they didn't agree with him during his lifetime, all the time that he lived. V'imrei la kol siyatai, all of his colleagues didn't agree with him. Now here's an interesting inquiry. Amalei Rebbe Lazar Lahu Saba. Rebbe Lazar said to a certain elder, Ki Sharisuha, when Rebbe permitted her to marry, La'alter Sharisuha, did he permit her as soon as the husband died? Did he permit her to remarry? Because if he died, he's not coming back in 12 months. The Loyase, because he's not coming back. It's only permitted to marry after 12 months, that because Kayim late tonight, because he said, here's your get if I don't come back within 12 months. So therefore, she can't remarry without, of course, Yibam and Chalitza until the 12 months come. Says the Gemara, but what are you asking this question? What are you asking this question on this heter of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi? This is a general question on a Mishnah. Here's your get from now. If I don't come back within a year, and he dies within the year, have a get. Why? Because since he won't come back within a year, it's retroactive from when he gave it while he was still alive. Came late tonight. The tonight is fulfilled. So you could ask over here also. Although we say that it's a good get, but is it a good get only after the 12 months, or is it good get right away when he died, because obviously he's not coming back anymore? Because he's not coming back. Came late tonight. Says, you're right. We could have cleared this shaila on the din in the Mishnah. Because since this Saba, this elder, was there when Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said the permit in the case of where he says, here's your get if I don't come back within 12 months. So therefore he inquired it according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's permit. But this inquiry could have been also on the Mishnah. Amar Abaya. Now, Abaya tells us something else. Hakol moedim likisheteitze chama min artika. If he said that here's your get when the sun comes out from its pouch. In other words, here's your get when the sun comes out in the morning. L'chi nafka ka'amala. He meant that the get should be chal when the sun comes out. L'chi mayis balayla. And if he died beforehand in the night, then the get is no good anymore, because it's a get la'achamisu. It's a get after he died. And of course, there's no get after Misa. He says, here's your get on the condition that the sun comes out. Now, we know that we have a rule by get that kol ha'omer almanas ka'omer me'akshav dami. Whoever says almanas, it says if he said from now. So he says on the condition that the sun comes out. So he meant from now if the sun comes out. When the sun comes out. Then if he dies in the night, the get is chal retroactively before he died. Me'akshav karmalei, and therefore v'chi mayis b'layla, if he dies in the night, hovade t'noah have, it was a t'nai, and he said me'akshav, because almanas is like me'akshav, and therefore the get me'chaimu, the get is given while he was still alive. Kid Rav Huna, Dam Ravuna Kalaimer Almanas, whoever says on the condition of Kaimer Me'akshav Dami. The Machlokes is where it's the language is ambiguous. Loinechleku ela be'im teitze, where he says, here's your get if it comes out. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Savalak Rabbi Yaisi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds like Rabbi Yaisi that we go and we look at the date on the get. Now the date on the get was from the day before, and therefore when it was given, and therefore it says if he said me'akshav, the amazmana shel shtar me'chil chalav v'avalekim hayoyim imati, like from today if I die. So therefore it's retroactive, and that's a get me'chayim. It's me'akshav imati. Rabbanon lesu the Rabbi Yaisi. Rabbanon don't hold of Rabbi Yaisi. Oh, if Rabbanon don't have hold of Rabbi Yaisi, v'avalei kizeh gitech imati greda. It's like here's your get if I die, where the get would have to be chal after Misa, and there's no get after Misa. Gufa. So now we said Yaisi ben Yoezer ruled 3 lenient rulings, and now we're going to take a closer look at the lenient rulings of Yaisi ben Yoezer ish tzreida. Let's look at it inside. Gufa. Hayid Yaisi ben Yoezer ish tzreida, ayil kamtza, the grasshopper, known as the ayil variety, dachan, that it is tahar and kosher. V'al be mitpechaya, and the beverages in the slaughtering area, dachan. V'al the yikr of l'meis, and one who touches a mace, that he's misav, that he's stomach. The kari la yosef sharia. So the Gemara says, okay, let's deal with each one separately. My ayil kamtza. What is the story with this grasshopper that's called ayil? Rav Papa Amar, it's the variety of grasshopper known as sheshiva, that has a long head. It's a variety of grasshopper whose wings barely cover the majority of the body of the grasshopper. Rapapa Mashishiva, Rapapa says it's the grasshopper known as Shashiva. They argue about whether a grasshopper that has a long head is a kosher grasshopper. The disputants of Yosef ben Yoezer hold that if it has a long head, it's aser. Omar Sava Rosh Arach mutter, and Yosef ben Yoezer holds that a long head is mutter. Rab Chia ba'ami mishmei de'ula amar suzbil. B'rosh Arach, if it has a long head, that's not a kosher grasshopper. Kuli amalei pli the aser. V'acha b'knaf of chayfen es rubai al yedei adchak. Here it's talking about where the wings cover the body of the grasshopper, barely cover it. It's enough to be a majority, even a little majority. Or it has to be recognizably covering the body, and since it doesn't recognizably cover the majority of the body, it's not a kosher grasshopper. So that's the first heter of Yossi ben Yoezer. The next one is Va'al mashka mitbechaya dechan, and the beverages of the slaughtering area of the Beis Hamikdash, right opposite the northern walls of the Beis Hamikdash of the Azara, there were rings which they each shevet had their ring, and the animal was inserted in the ring. So my dochan. Now the question is, what does it mean that it was tar? It's a machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Rav amad dochan mamish, that beverages over there, blood in the water in the slaughtering area, are completely tar. V'Shmuel amar dochan militame acherim, them tar from being mitame others. Aval tumas atzman yeshben, but they do have their own tumah. Rav amad dochan mamish, because he holds that the beverages are only mikabel tumah midrabana. Because savar tumas mashkin, the entire susceptibility of beverages to tumah is only rabbinical. V'chi gazer rabbanan tumah b'mashkin alma, only regular liquids. Aval b'mashkin be'mit b'chayis, so they shouldn't proliferate tumah and azara like gazer rabbanan. V'shmuel amar dochan militami achayrim, it's only tar from b'mitami other things. He holds tumas mashkin is daraisa. Aval tumas atzman yeshbem, because savar tumas mashkin daraisa, they can't waive the biblical tumah. Letami acherim, but to convey tumah to others, that's the rabbanan. V'chi gaz rabbanan, that mashkin should transmit tumah, but mashkin alma, but mashkin beimit b'chaya loy gazu. Okay, so that's the second heter. The third heter of Yossi ben Yoezer doesn't even sound like a heter. V'al the yikra of l'meisa misif, and the fact that if you touch a dead body, you're tamei. V'karele Yosef Shaya, and they called him Yosef the permitter. Says, what do you mean? That's not a permit. That's not a leniency. That's a stringency that he's tamei. Yosef asra mibayle, and furthermore, he can't say that if you touch a mace, it's tamei. That's not his testimony. That's a farish pasuk. V'aydoraisi, that's biblical. Whoever touches on the face of the field, b'chaval cherev, a corpse slain with a sword, oy b'meis, the tummy shivas yomim, he becomes tummy 7 days. Says, well, you're right. Doraisa the yikrav masa, the yikrav tummy. The one who touches it is tummy. But the yikrav, if one who touches a mace, he's tar. But also inu v'gazer afilu the yikrav, but the yikrav, that even one who touches, the one that touches a mace, is tamei. Says the Gemara, v'asa iyu, and therefore he came, and v'ukmud adaraisa, that only if you touch a mace you're tamei, but not if you touch the one that touches the mace. Says, well, what are you talking about? If a tummy mace touches a person, he's tamei midaraisa. The yikra, but the yikra, if the one who touches a mace touches another person, that's also daraisa. Whoever the tamei touches, yidma. So the Gemara says, you're right. We have to fine tune this. Amru Rabbanan Kamei de Rava Mishmei de Marzutra. The Rabbanan said in front of Rav in the name of Marzutra, Reid Rav Nachman, the Amma Mishmei de Rav Nachman, the Araisa, Midaraisa, the Yikrav, B'chiburin. If, let's say, Ruvain is touching a mace, and Shimon touches Ruvain while he's still touching the mace, that's called Chiburin, Tuma Shiva. Then Shimon is Tamei for 7 days. Shaloi B'chiburin. But if Ruvain touches the mace, releases the mace, and then touches Shimon, he's only Shaloi B'chiburin, it's only Tumas Erev. Shimon is only Tamei until the night. V'asa inu v'gazer, and he went ahead and decreed the afilu shaloi b'chiburin, that even if Ruvain is not touching the mace, Tuma Shiva. That was those that argue on Yossi ben Yoezer. V'asa iyu v'ukmu adaraisa, and he went ahead and established the raisa that if Ruvain is holding the mace and touches Shimon, Shimon is Tamei 7 days. But if Ruvain is not holding the mace and touches Shimon, then he's only Tamei until the evening. Says the Gemara, the Raisa Maihi. Where do we see biblically? Where do we see biblically that there's a difference between whether Ruvain is still holding on to the mace when he touches Shimon, or after Ruvain releases the mace and touches Shimon, that if he's holding the mace and touches Shimon, Shimon is Tamei 7 days. But if he releases the mace and touches Shimon, he's only Tamei until the evening. Where do we see this in the Torah? One who touches a mace, one who touches a mace and then comes in contact with any person, the Tamei Shivas Yomim. He's the one who he touched is Tamei 7 days. Yet whoever the Tamei touches, Yitma. Excuse me. A person touches a mace, he's Tamei for 7 days. And in that same pasuk it says, if that person who touched the mace touches someone else, Yitma. And that pasuk is also talking about Tumah of 7 days. Yet it says in another pasuk, the person who touches the one who becomes Tamei, Titma Arev. It's only Tamei until the evening. So which one is it? Is the one who Ruvain touches Tamei 7 days, or he's only Tamei until the evening? Okay, tzad. Kan b'chiburin, kan shaloi b'chiburin. If Ruvain was still holding the mace when he touched Shimon, so then Shimon is Tamei 7 days. If Ruvain released the mace and then touched Shimon, he's only Tamei until the evening. Amalu Rava. So Rava said, this is not pshat. Lo yaminu lechu, didn't I tell you, lo tislu be buke srike Rav Nachman? Don't hang empty bottles on Rav Nachman. This is not what Rav Nachman said. Rather, the incident that Yossi ben Yoezer was makel is Hachi Amar Rav Nachman. We know all over Shas, we learn the rule, Safek Tumah B'Rishus Harabim, Hitter Lahem. That Yossi ben Yoezer said that if there's a doubt about Tumah in the Rishus Harabim, it's mutter. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? That's not a teaching of Yossi ben Yoezer. That we learn out from Saita. We learn that out from the Isha Saita. Ma Saita Rishus Yachid, the doubt transpired in room 208 when she was alone with the Paramar. So Af Tumah Rishus Yachid. So also any Suffolk Tumah that takes place in Rishus Yachid is Tamei. Says the Gemara, well, I'll tell you what the heter of Yossi ben Yoezer was. Because Ha'amar Rav Yochanan halacha, the ein moirin came. This is the halacha, but we don't instruct the public of this leniency. V'asa iu, and Yosef ben Yed is a Cain, v'oyrele oriyeh, and he taught this leniency. Tanya Namayachi, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Koirei Sna'atz Lahem, he placed beams to demarcate clearly where the Rishus Harabim starts, that they should know that if a suffix arises, it's tar. Amar ad kan Rishus Harabim, ad kan Rishus Hayachid. Ki also the Kamid Rabbi Yanai, when they became before Rabbi Yanai, Amar lahu, he said to them, in the case of a suffix tumah b'Rishus Harabim, he didn't allow them to be lenient. He says, "Hamaya b'shikaasa denara." There's water in the deep part of the river. Zilu tvulu. In other words, the only time we will allow on suffix tumah b'Rishus Harabim is if it was already too late. For example, if there's a suffix whether food became tumah. Now, food cannot be toiveled in the mikveh. So therefore, there we rely on suffix tumah b'Rishus Harabim. But if there's a way to get around it by being toivel, so we say that you should be toivel in the mikveh. Now the Mishnah said, and also they prohibited ba'achila and not ba'hanoah ba'shlokis, cooked foods of the goyim. Says the Gemara Minani Mili. Where do we see a source for this? Amar Rab Chia bar Abba, Amar Rab Yochanan, Amar Kra. The pasuk, the pasuk says, "Oichel ba'kesef tajbireni v'achalti." You will give me food, and I will buy it for money. Omayim b'kesef titen li v'shasisi. That's what we told the goyim. But we're only going to eat food like water. Kamayim. Ma mayim shaloi nishtanu. That's water that's not changed from the way it is raw. Af oichel shaloi nishtan. Only food that's not changed, not food that's cooked. Elimiata says, you mean to say that we should imply from here that chitin v'asen kloyis, if wheat, we took it and we made out of it toasted grain, it would be forbidden? Hakanami da'asurin, because it's not like mayim. V'chitei hakanami, maybe you'll say, yeah, that's the halacha. But v'tanya chitin v'asen kloyis, wheat, and you made it into toasted kernels, mutarin. Rather, elakamayim, the comparison to water is slightly different. Elakamayim, ma mayim shaloi nishtanu mibriyasan, it's not changed from the way it was when it was created. Af oichel shaloi nishtana mibriyasan. Toasted grain doesn't change its look from the way it was created. Says the Gemara that you mean that if they took wheat and they ground it, so it's different from the way it was created, it would be aser. Maybe you'll say, yeah, it is aser. But vatanya chitin v'ason kloyis, wheat that they made into toasted kernels, or v'akmachim, or flour, v'aslasa shalan, or fine flour, mutarin. So you see, even if it's not kibriyasan, it's still mutar. Rather, the comparison is as follows: Ela kamayim, ma mayim shaloi nishtanu mibriyasan al yedei ha'or. Just like water is not changed from its natural state by way of fire, af oichel shaloi nishtanu mibriyasan al yedei ha'or. Food that's not changed through fire is permitted. So if it was ground, that's allowed. Says the Gemara, I don't know, where do you get fire from? Does it say in the pasuk fire? Midei arksiv, it doesn't say in the pasuk fire. Says, you're right. This is anyway not a doraisa. Ela midrabanan. The din is midrabanan, and the pasuk is only an asmachta. Vikra asmachta ba'alma. The pasuk is a mere mnemonic to remember the halacha. Okay, Rabbi, say one blot in the books as we pause a moment to change the channel.